Yeah, thanks for talking to me, and thanks to the Huddle and Filecoin team for having us here. It's really impressive what they pulled off, and last year we heard about what a great success this event was, and I'm really glad we got to see it in person this time. At CyberConnect, we've been really close partners with both Protocol Labs. They're an investor in our company, as well as Huddle One. We were one of the early sort of teams to integrate with them. In fact, our identity solution is part of Huddle One, and it's just really great to be together in real life again in person, and be able to see and meet all these young builders in India. India is really an exciting place for Web3, and it's just very, very exciting for Huddle One, Filecoin, and all the organizers to put this all together for this crowd. Yeah, that's a great question. I think the answer to this question is a bit nuanced. It can be argued that in many ways, um, Web3 is a completely different paradigm, completely different frontier, and the way you not only build companies, the way you sell your products and the way you connect with your audience is a completely different way, and the channels you use is different, the incentives that you use are different. But at the same time, having done this for a couple of years now, I'm also aware, and I'm also really, take this humbly that there's something about the human psychology that doesn't change, whether it's Web2 or Web3. People are the same. People make friendships the same way. People make connections the same way. People want the same thing. And I think that sort of, always remains sort of like the North Star of our marketing at CyberConnect, at least, or the way we connect with our audiences, is sort of touching upon those, the common ground that we share across the different paradigms. Um, an example of that could be, although a lot of the crypto native users, sort of get in early to use your product, and sort of are trying to stay in the loop, get involved with the community because of financial reward that they may get in the form of an airdrop, which is which is a different conversation about how effective that is and how much has been working. Um, how you communicate and how you really involve that community, about the help that you need from them in beta testing your product and sort of really scaling it through, iterating and really growing your MVP into a product that can be used by millions and billions of people. I think that's where really the work of somebody like me at CyberConnect lies, is bridging that gap between the just deep financial incentive, at the same time, building products that are community-led, community growth, and at the same time are have a direction and follow the iterative cycles that they want to. So yeah, like it's a bit different, but at the same time, I feel like the core remains the same because people all around the world are the same that way. I think maybe a more important question to ask about your experience with social media is it's not whether or not the experience that you're having right now um, is good or bad. It's more about how much control you have on that experience. I think the movement towards, the movement of Web3, the movement of decentralization is really about taking back ownership and taking back control. In terms of Facebook or Instagram, I assume the kind of platform that you were referring to, um, I would argue that it's not necessarily bad that, when you do, you know, um, express that you are a resident of, say, like Bangalore, you do start getting advertisements, or you start getting targeted for products in Bangalore. One could argue that that's what actually makes the experience of using social products sticky. That brings you back. That gives you really the utility that you want from a platform. But the right question to ask would be, when you are being targeted like that, how much control do you have in controlling the degree to what you're being targeted, and how your data is being used that way, and whether you really have an incentive in sharing that data with the team, right? I would say what really Web3 enables, an interesting use case in terms of advertising on social platforms could be, hey, like if you want to show me these ads, like I want a share of the revenue that you make by selling my data, right? That's not possible with Web3 and blockchains. And that, as a user would also incentivize you to use that application more, because you can, make a little bit more money than you would I like to think of this concept as like Uber for social, where, if you have an extra few hours a day, instead of driving Uber to make an extra income, you can just go and just try out these social products and create content and also make money. I think the early stages of this looks like in the creator economy where, right now creators make most of their money from brand partnerships and not necessarily any of the money from the traffic that they bring to platforms like Instagram and TikTok. I think, Instagram is infamous for pretty much giving nothing to their creators, even though these are the people who actually bring the traffic to these platforms. So I think it requires a bit of deeper, more critical thinking, to think about advertising in social. But at the same time, I absolutely understand that privacy, and I absolutely agree that privacy is really important, and there needs to be some sort of privacy-preserving way of doing this. I'd argue that right now, how it is with Facebook and Instagram, it's not private at all because it's very easy to go. For example, if I'm a vendor, I have a business, and you are my customer, and you've done credit card payments to me, I can basically go and find you on Facebook and start showing ads to you. That's basically how the entire ad tech industry is structured today. But what I'm really excited about in Web3 is how can you do it in a privacy-preserving way where even though you have that relationship with the vendor, like how are those ads being served to you and what is that experience like where nobody else except you knows what ads are being shown to you and how's that deal going and all of that. There's a lot of different things going on in the space. I'd still say like it's very, very early to start thinking about, I think thinking is good, but like start really envisioning what this looks like in flesh. But it definitely offers a very interesting perspective and alternative to how things have been for the past decade. And maybe it'll make the experience of doing social networking on the internet a bit more meaningful or a bit more at least financially beneficial than just mindlessly getting people to become addicted to these things. Yeah. So CyberConnect was really born out of this question about identity systems, really. So, the team has a very rich background in Web3, in blockchain-based products. We built a product called DLive back in the day, which was really the world's first decentralized live streaming platform. It was acquired by BitTorrent back in 2017. And if you remember, a YouTuber called PewDiePie, who was at the time the most subscribed YouTuber, he actually quit YouTube to come, live stream on DLive. So that was a really interesting experience for us to understand, what is it that really creators want when they're spending all this time and energy creating content and bringing all this traffic and building this audience, but they still really live at the mercy of giants like Instagram and YouTube. You saw a huge amount of, mobilization in how, a lot of the audiences followed their favorite creators to these platforms and had a direct financial relationship with them instead of YouTube kind of like arbitrarily changing policies that, if you have 1 million views, you get X amount of money. But if you're in the US, maybe your pay is a little bit higher. If you're in India, your pay is a little bit lower. So there's no equality there. So after that, we sort of started asking the question about what else is there, in the digital world today, which sort of is highly there's a big blocker in terms of a centralized entity. Like the Googles and Facebooks of the world that sort of hinder, innovation, hinder community building, hinder really equity in the world, and that got us to thinking about identity solutions. If you really think about the internet today, it's really a bunch of companies that are connected to each other. You could think of Google having the world's most number of accounts, Facebook having the most number of social accounts, and they are sort of, because they work together with each other, that's how you're able to access the internet. But they could, if they start competing with each other, if there's a new startup that comes up and wants to compete with Google or Facebook, they will just never provide their identity solution to them. So, you won't be able to log in with your Google account, or you won't be able to log into your Facebook account. And what that creates is like these silos of identity. And we thought that, these silos won't exist if no 2 or 3 players were controlling the market like this. So we set out to build out a decentralized, permissionless identities infrastructure. It's called CyberAccount. That's really the core of what CyberConnect is. And then from there, we sort of started growing it into an ecosystem. We have a protocol. It's called the CyberConnect Social Protocol. It's essentially a set of SDKs and middleware solutions for developers to really build out social applications. So if you're a developer and you want to build out a social application for your college, for your mathematics class, or for your computer science program, for that limited, program of your college, you could essentially just build it on the CyberConnect protocol. You take up our identity standard, you take up our follow, like, comment module, and you sort of build like what you'd call a front end or a client for it. And what that does is it decouples the platform with the data layer. And what that means is you create this new kind of social network where users can go from one network to the other while taking their data with them, taking their audiences with them. So they're no longer stuck or sort of locked into a platform. And it also creates a very interesting, fascinating distinction in the market, where now developers or companies compete on a better service provider because they can't lock in users, right? Because Instagram can and has locked us in. A lot of us don't leave it because that's where all of our lives really are. That's why they have the monopoly in the market. They control most of the Facebook and Google control more than 75% of the advertising market, which is really bizarre. So that's what CyberConnect protocol is. We also build products. That means we've also built the front ends because we just really love building products. So we built a decentralized version of LinkedIn. It's called Link3. It's a great product. We have about 900,000 users monthly. Huddle 01 is soon going to have an integration on it as well. And then recently we came up with something called Cyber Wallet, which is just sort of our attempt at making Web3 a bit more accessible, a bit more familiar and similar to use. It's a bit like thinking how all of us have banking apps on our phone, and although we don't necessarily understand how wire transfers work or how really banking settlements happen, we can still send money, receive money, and do some financial management. We don't need to know all the underlying infrastructure. That's not possible with crypto today. You really need to understand how wallets work, seed phrases, private keys, so on and so forth. So we are building Cyber Wallet to bring Web3 more closer to a non-technical way of doing things. So those are 3 different products. What's coming up is we're going to continue to just improve, talk to customers, attend events like this, talk to people what they're interested in building, talk to developers and see what they need, improve our protocol. And yeah, it's going to be a long journey, but we're really glad that we've had this momentum, and really thankful for the support that our community has given us, especially in India. It's our first time in India, and we're trying to meet everybody and introduce ourselves and just hopefully build this family in India of CyberConnect and keep going.